Good afternoon. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. In our World News Deep Dive, we're looking at a major announcement from the world of comics that has fans and industry analysts buzzing. At Emerald City Comic Con, or ECCC, artist and writer Tony Fleeks revealed that the classic Wildstorm universe is making a major comeback within DC Comics. The headline: Deathblow, a flagship Wildstorm character, is joining forces with DC's own Deathstroke, the Terminator, in a new series titled Deathstroke, the Terminator, as part of DC's Next Level initiative. This is more than just a crossover. It's a significant corporate and creative strategy shift, blending two distinct comic book universes with decades of history. Break down what this means for the industry, the financial stakes, and why this revival matters in a 2026 entertainment landscape dominated by cinematic universes. We'll also touch on a surprising parallel from the world of sports, where Lewis Hamilton is making his own call for a different kind of revival. This is a 12-minute analysis. First, let's set the stage. The announcement came from Tony Fleeks, the creator behind hits like Stray Dogs and Uncanny Valley. He was speaking on the DC What's Next panel at Emerald City Comic Con, one of the largest comic conventions in North America. The core of the news is the launch of Deathstroke, the Terminator, a series that will feature not just the titular DC assassin, but also Deadshot, another iconic gun for hire, and crucially Deathblow. Now, for those unfamiliar, Deathblow is not a DC character. He was created by Jim Lee and Brandon Choi and debuted in 1993 under Image Comics, specifically under the Wildstorm imprint. Wildstorm was later purchased by DC Comics in 1999 and was integrated, then largely shelved, with periodic revivals. This new series represents the most high-profile use of a Wildstorm character in mainstream DC continuity in years. So, why is this a big deal? It signals a strategic pivot for DC Comics, which is owned by Warner Bros. Discovery. Under the leadership of co-CEOs James Gunn and Peter Safran, the DC film and television universe is being rebooted. The comics division appears to be following a parallel path, mining its vast library for valuable intellectual property. The Wildstorm universe, with its gritty, militaristic, and politically charged superheroes, offers a tonal contrast to the more traditional DC pantheon. Integrating Deathblow, a Black Ops super soldier with a mysterious past, into stories with Deathstroke, the world's deadliest mercenary, creates immediate narrative synergy. Industry analysts see this as a test. If this series succeeds, it could open the floodgates for more Wildstorm integrations, potentially leading to new film and television adaptations. Let's talk numbers and market context. The direct market for comic books, the network of specialty shops, has faced challenges. However, events like ECCC drive massive sales and hype. A new #1 issue from a popular creator like Tony Fleeks, featuring such a high-concept team-up, is a guaranteed sales driver. The standard price for a mainstream comic book today is $3.99. For a premium book like this, with higher page counts or special features, that price can climb to $4.99 or even $5.99. We're looking at an initial print run that could easily exceed 100,000 copies. Based on historical data for similar high-profile launches, we project first-month sales could reach between 120,000 and 150,000 units. At an average cover price of $4.50, that's a retail value of $540,000 to $675,000 from the direct market alone, not including digital sales, trade paperback collections, or international editions. But the real value isn't in single-issue sales. It's in the long-tail intellectual property. A successful comic series lays the groundwork for multimedia adaptation. Consider the journey of The Boys, which started as a Wildstorm comic before moving to Dynamite Entertainment. Its Amazon Prime Video adaptation is a global phenomenon. DC and Warner Bros. Are undoubtedly looking for the next property with that potential. Deathstroke has already appeared in films, video games, and animated series. Deathblow represents an untapped asset. The financial calculus here is about building a library of viable characters for the next decade of streaming content. This is a low-risk, high-reward experiment. The development cost for a comic series is a fraction of a pilot episode, yet it can prove concept and build a fanbase. Now, let's introduce a contrasting perspective. Is this a creative revival or a corporate mining operation? Some longtime Wildstorm fans are skeptical. They argue that previous integrations, like the New 52s, Stormwatch, or the recent The Wildstorm imprint by Warren Ellis, which was critically acclaimed but commercially modest, show the difficulty of transplanting the universe's unique tone. They worry that folding Deathblow into the DC universe proper will dilute what made the character special. His original series was known for its complex, mature storylines and high body counts. In one notable story arc, the Fire from Heaven crossover, the narrative featured over 200 on-panel deaths, a scale of consequence rarely seen in mainstream superhero comics. Will a DC-sanctioned series allow for that level of stakes? Or will it be sanitized to fit a broader brand? This is the central creative debate. This debate mirrors a larger conversation in global pop culture about legacy, control, and revival. Interestingly, on the eve of the new Formula One season, seven-time champion Lewis Hamilton made headlines with powerful comments about Africa. Speaking in Melbourne, Hamilton, who is of Grenadian and British descent, called for a movement to, quote, take Africa back. He claimed the continent is still being controlled by European powers, its former colonial rulers. Hamilton expressed his ambition to race in an African Grand Prix before he retires, stating, I'm hoping countries unite. This isn't just about sports. It's about agency, narrative, and reclaiming a legacy. In a symbolic sense, Hamilton's call and DC's revival of Wildstorm touch on similar themes. Who controls a legacy? Who gets to tell its story next? Is it a return to roots or a new direction imposed from the outside? Let's visualize the stakes with some comparative data. If we look at the life cycle of comic book intellectual property, from page to screen, the value multiplication is staggering. A successful comic series might generate, as we said, $675,000 in its first month. A moderately successful streaming series based on that property can have a production budget of $50 to $100 million per season. The global merchandising and licensing revenue from a hit character can reach billions. So, the investment in a comic like Deathstroke, The Terminator, is a tiny seed for a potential financial redwood. For Warner Bros. Discovery, which reported a total debt of $45 billion as of late 2025, finding new revenue streams from existing assets is not just creative, it's corporate necessity. Back to the comic itself. What can we expect from Tony Fleeck's take? His previous work, like Stray Dogs, is a horror thriller that reimagines the premise of 101 Dalmatians through a dark, psychological lens. It was a critical and commercial hit. Uncanny Valley explores digital consciousness. This suggests Fleeck's will bring a nuanced, character-driven approach to Deathstroke, the Terminator. The series will likely focus on the moral and professional friction between these three lethal men: Deathstroke, the tactical genius; Deadshot, the unerring marksman; and Deathblow, the supernatural wildcard. The potential for political thriller elements, given Deathblow's history with covert agencies like I.O. and Team 7, is high. This could be less a traditional superhero book and more a military espionage saga with superhuman elements. The announcement also raises questions about the broader DC Next Level plan. Is this a one-off or part of a larger Wildstorm resurgence? Reliable industry sources suggest that if Deathstroke, the Terminator, hits its sales targets, let's say, maintaining over 80,000 copies by issue 3, DC will greenlight at least 2 more Wildstorm integration projects in 2027. Potential candidates include a new Authority series focusing on the ultra-powerful and morally ambiguous team, or a standalone Midnighter book. The data from this first series will be the key indicator. The gauge for success is clear. The target is sustained sales above 80,000. The current climate, with reader interest in darker, more complex stories, suggests the timing might be perfect. In conclusion, the news from ECCC is a significant bellwether for the comics industry and for DC's strategy under its new leadership. The integration of Wildstorm's Deathblow into a core DC title is a bold experiment in legacy management and brand synergy. It carries financial promise, with direct market sales projected in the hundreds of thousands of dollars and the long-term IP value in the millions or even billions. It also carries creative risk, balancing fan expectations with mainstream appeal. As Lewis Hamilton's comments remind us, narratives of revival and control are playing out across global culture, from the racetracks of a potential African Grand Prix to the pages of a comic book in Portland. The success or failure of Deathstroke, the Terminator, will tell us much about what kinds of stories resonate in 2026 and who gets to tell them. For Kenya News Update Today, this has been a World News Deep Dive. Subscribe to Kenya News Update Today for more.